Simon Says subscribe and click on the bell icon to receive notifications.
Hey there, welcome back. It's Cindy again. We're still working in QuickBooks for Desktop 2023. We've been working in section 3 where we're talking about customizing the QuickBooks environment, and we're now down to the most important part of QuickBooks, which is the chart of accounts. Anytime you spend money, you have to tell QuickBooks, what did you spend the money for? Did you purchase a meal? Did you pay the electric bill? If you received money, was it a sale you made for the business? Was it some random check that you received and you put it in the bank? Every single thing in QuickBooks will flow back through one or more of the items on the chart of accounts. So it's very, very, very important that it's set up correctly to begin with. Let's head on over to QuickBooks and we'll get started setting up that chart of accounts. When you went through the Easy Step interview to set up the company, it created a generic chart of accounts for you. You can go in and add items to that list, or if there's something you know you'll never use, you can delete it or edit the name. You can just customize the list any way you want. The easiest way to access the chart of accounts is right here on your home screen. It says Chart of Accounts. This is a listing of all the accounts that are already set up for you. The way this list is set up is you'll notice over here there are different types of accounts. And if you have two of the types that are the same, and you go back and look at the name of the accounts, they'll be in alphabetical order. If you have your general ledger numbers turned on, they'll be in numerical order. And if you remember, the way you turn on the general ledger numbers, if you want them, because this is not something you have to do, it's just an option, is you go back to Edit, go back to your Preferences. On the left here, you want to be under Accounting, Company Preferences tab, and you would check the box to use account numbers and click OK. And now you'll see they're in numerical order by type. There are some types that aren't even here yet because we have to set them up. What I want to do is go through this list and show you each of the different types, what you'll use them for, and we're going to end up setting up some new accounts along the way. This is where you might want to take some notes because you're going to be setting up a lot of these accounts. Let's go ahead and get started. The first type that I want to talk to you about are bank accounts, and you'll notice there aren't any right now. A bank account would be a checking account, a savings account, a money market account, any kind of account you would have at the bank. If you use PayPal, for example, PayPal will be set up as a bank account. Let's talk about how you set up an account. The easiest thing to do is just right-click anywhere on the screen and notice there's your New, Edit, Delete, or Make Inactive. Let me just point out what Make Inactive means. Once you set up an account, if you've ever used it even one time and you don't want it anymore, you can't delete it. Let's say you had a bank account you closed, but you did use it for a while, but now you've closed it. You don't want to delete it because those numbers play into your reports. So you can actually make it inactive, meaning it will hide from this list. And if you notice at the very, very bottom of your screen, there's a little checkbox that says Include Inactive. If you ever want to see those, you can actually check the box to see all of the accounts on the list. But we're going to go ahead and create a checking account, so we will click on New. The first thing QuickBooks asks you is, what type of account is it you're trying to set up? And you'll notice there's income expense. Down here is bank. Each time you choose one of these options, you will get a little screen here that shows you what, in this case, a bank account is. Also, if there's some other type of account not listed up here, you can click this drop down and choose it from this list. Right now we're creating a bank account. We'll click Continue. The next thing QuickBooks wants to know is what type of account this is. And you already chose bank, but if you pick the wrong type, you can see that you have a drop down where you can change it. The next thing you'll want to do is put in the general ledger number for this account. I'm going to use the 10,000 series. And then you want to put in the account name. I'm going to use checking, but you can name this anything you'd like. If you want to say operating account, and another one might be a payroll account. Maybe use the bank name. That's certainly okay. And this is not a sub-account of another. We'll talk about sub-accounts in a little bit. Notice there's also some optional information here. you can put in the description, the bank account number, and the routing number. I probably wouldn't put this information in just because you don't want anyone to get hold of that information if they don't need it, and QuickBooks does not need that information. What you will need is an opening balance. It has to have a number to start with. What you'll want to do is get out your bank statement for the month in which you want to start QuickBooks. If you're trying to put in all of this past year, you'll want to get out your January bank statement. And whatever its ending balance is, that's the number that you want to put in here. Also, it says statement ending date. If you're starting with January 1, you want December 31st or January 1 as that statement date. Either one would be fine. I'll just put in 12/31 of 2021. You could also click the drop-down calendar. I'll click OK. The next thing you'll see down here is QuickBooks will remind you to order checks when you reach a certain check number, which you type in here. And if you want to order them from QuickBooks, it'll remind you because Intuit can sell checks to you. Just for your reference, you can purchase checks wherever you'd like to purchase them from. You do not have to purchase them from Intuit. I'm going to hit Save and Close at the bottom. If your transaction is over 90 days, you will get this message just letting you know that. This preference can be changed in the preferences. I'll just go ahead and say yes here because it's asking if I'm sure I want to do this. You might also get this message that pops up. It wants you to set up your bank feeds. We're actually going to talk about that in another section. Right now I'm going to go ahead and say no. I'll set that up later. And you'll see there's your checking account right there at the top. You can see the type is a bank account and there's the total balance. If you double click on any of these that have a balance, you'll get a register. This is a quick way to get into the checkbook register, and you can see that I've got one transaction, my opening balance right here. I'm going to close that. Let's set up one more. I'm going to set up a savings account. I'm going to right click and choose New. This will be a bank account. I'll hit Continue. I'm going to name this account Savings, and we will say that the general ledger number is $10,100, and I'll enter an opening balance of $15,000. We'll make that date the last day of last year and go ahead and click OK. When I save and close, I should then see the savings account appear in my chart of accounts, and I do. And if you come way over here, it's $15,000 is your balance. This is a good way to look right here and see the balance that you have in these accounts. One thing I want you to make note of is this account right here, which is opening balance equity. Anytime you create a new account and it asks you what is the opening balance, that's what's going to automatically filter into this account. Right now you'll see it's a positive number, but if you had a loan that was more than this, then you would see a negative number in front of it. You can't change that. That's an accurate picture of your books. The next type I want to point out are your asset accounts. Like you see here, they've got two of these. They have furniture and fixtures and accumulated depreciation. This is the one place where your accountant will be very helpful to you because you'll want to set up several different asset accounts to put your physical items into. What I mean by that is you're going to have big buckets. You're going to have one that you'll probably name vehicles. You won't have one for each vehicle, but just the accumulation of the vehicles. You're not going to know how to figure out the depreciation, and again, this is something your accountant can help you with here. Two terms in accounting, you're going to have fixed assets, which are assets that the company owns that make it more valuable, and you plan to keep them long term. Maybe a building, for example. Whereas a liquid asset, or what they call other current, is more like inventory. You're worth more because you have it, but your goal is to sell it and get it out the door. I want to point out the accounts payable option as well. This number should reflect any bills that you've set up that you have not yet paid. Let's go ahead and stop the video right here. We do have some more accounts to go through. Let's head on over to part 2 of working with the chart of accounts. Hey there, welcome back. It's Cindy again. We are actually working with QuickBooks for Desktop 2023, and we want to go ahead and finish talking about the chart of accounts. We just completed part 1, and now what I'd like to do is just continue to show you the different types of accounts that you need to set up. Let's head over to QuickBooks and we'll continue talking about the chart of accounts. In part one, we went over a couple of these types. We talked about what bank accounts are. We talked about fixed assets or other current assets, which are more liquid. We talked about accounts payable. I want to talk now about the liability accounts that you see right here. There are two types of liability accounts that you're going to find. One is what we call other current liabilities, and then the other one is called long-term liabilities. A long-term liability is something you're going to pay off in more than 12 or 13 months, maybe a 5-year car note. Whereas a short-term liability is something you're going to pay off fairly quickly. You'll see in this case, because I told it that we do payroll and we collect sales tax, QuickBooks set these two up for us automatically, and they're other current liabilities. Both of these would be monies that I would collect from employees if it's payroll, or sales tax. I would collect that from customers. And I have to forward those fairly quickly to the appropriate entity. Let's go ahead and set up a long-term liability. We'll set up a card note just to show you how this works. I'm going to right-click and choose New. Something to note is if you choose Loan right here, QuickBooks assumes it's a short-term or other current loan. If you know it's a long-term, you'll need to come down here and click the arrow and choose Long-Term Liability. Then click Continue, and we can set up the information on this account. I'm going to plug in a general ledger number, and I'm going to name my account. I'm going to say My Bank Car Payment. You can name this anything you want. If you want to put your actual bank name there, you can. If you want to put the name of the car, you can. Whatever you want to call this, you're certainly welcome to do that. This is not a sub-account. I'm not going to fill in these two things, but I do need the opening balance. As of the start date of your QuickBooks company file, how much did you owe for this vehicle? You'll want to get that number from your bank, and if you don't know what it is to start with, just go ahead and put a penny in here and change it later. I'm going to say it was $12,569.87, and I will put in the start of my QuickBooks file date and click OK. Now I'm going to save and close. And you're going to see you have a car payment set up now. It is a long-term liability. And you can see the balance that you owe on the payment over here. And I want to point out something at this point that I see very often. If you have a car payment, it is not an expense to your business. It's considered a long-term liability. What you want to happen is when you create that transaction where you made that car payment, you want it to deduct from this account so that it has the correct ending balance. That means that you're going to choose this account when you're making the car payment, not some account down here where the expenses are. The next type I want to talk about are credit cards, and you see that we don't have any here yet. If you have credit cards that you use to purchase items for the business, you'll want to set each one up separately. I'm going to go ahead and right-click and choose New again. I'll choose credit card this time and continue. I'm going to give my account a name. I'll just say it was an Amex card. I do need the opening balance as of the start date of the company file. If you pay it off every month, it's going to be $0. But let's say that this one had a balance of $2,987.62. And of course, the start date of my company file or the ending of the previous month. I'm going to click OK. And save and close. What you'll notice now is you have an Amex card back here, and there's the balance on the credit card. Just like with the loans we talked about, when you make a payment to the credit card, this is the account you want to choose right here. You don't want to go through and choose different expense accounts that you use to purchase items on the credit card, because you're going to see later when we talk about credit cards how that works. Always, 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 if you're making a payment to the credit card, you choose this account that you just set up. Now you'll notice that I didn't put a general ledger number in here because I wanted to go back and show you how to edit any account. I'm just going to right click and choose Edit and make sure you're on the account you want to edit. And now I'll go ahead and add my general ledger number and save and close. And now you can see it lines up with the rest of them right here. The next type I want to talk about are your equity accounts. Think about the word equity means equal. It's already your money, you're just shifting it from one place to another. Remember that money flows into this opening balance equity automatically when you open any account in QuickBooks and you tell it what the opening balance is. The other one I want to mention is when the owner of a company transfers money into or out of the business account. That's called equity. It's equal. The company didn't make a sale and it's not taxable money. It just means money was shifted into it. Typically, I'll see it set up like this. I'm going to click on New. And let's choose Equity this time and continue. This time, I want to call this one Owner. And we're not going to put in a balance right now. Just want to show you this. Right here, you've got Owner. You can see it's an equity account. But what I want to do is create two sub-accounts below it so you can use this when you're transferring money into the business or out of the business. You'll see again that I don't have a general ledger number. I'm going to go ahead and right click and add one. I'll just edit that account. And you can see now it has a general ledger number. I'm going to add a new account, and this one is going to be when I transfer money into the business. That's called an owner contribution. Notice it's going to be an equity account, and I'm going to click continue. For the account name, I'm going to call this one Contributions. And this is where sub-accounts come in. This is a sub-account of Owner. The main account and the sub-account have to have the same type. Now this time I'm going to save a new to save me going back to that list of the chart of accounts. I'm going to save a new and set up the second one. Whenever you take money out of the business, it's considered a draw. This will be a sub-account of Owner again. And I'll go ahead and save and close to show you what this looks like. You'll notice these two accounts look like they're indented underneath Owner. That's a sub-account of Owner. Whenever you have sub-accounts and you're working in QuickBooks, always want to pick one of the sub-accounts, not the main account. If you pick the main account, what will happen is you will see reports that say Other. Let's go ahead and stop the video here. We want to move over into part 3 of the chart of accounts, and then we'll finish setting up this list. Hey there, I'm glad you could make it back. It's Cindy again. We are working through customizing the QuickBooks environment, and we are going to finish up with this video where we're talking about the chart of accounts. We've gone through most all of the accounts. All we have left to look at are some income accounts, some cost of goods sold, and some expense accounts. Go ahead and get ready to take some notes, and we'll finish talking about how to work with the chart of accounts. The next type that I want to talk to you about are your income accounts. You'll see there are 3 set up for this company file. Income means you've made a sale for your business, and it's going to be taxable money. If you create an invoice and a customer pays you, that is income for your business. If you just receive a rebate check or you have some miscellaneous cash, that type of thing, and you make a deposit, that is not income to your business. You didn't make a sale to get that money. You can have one income account or you can have 6 or 7. That's totally up to you. Remember, when you're setting up any of these different types, you want to be as detailed as you need to be for your own purposes. But remember, if you have an accountant or someone else looking through your books, they don't want to read a 5-page profit and loss. So keep your accounts to a minimum, but have as many as you think you might need. The next type I want to mention are your cost of goods sold accounts. When you look at a profit and loss, what you're going to find is you will have your income minus your cost of goods sold, and then it will take off your expenses as well to give you a net over or under. A cost of goods sold account is one you would add for something that cost you money to make your own product or service in the business. Here's a few examples. What if a customer has a dental mold company where they make molds for their customers? They have to buy supplies. Those supplies are considered a cost of goods sold. They had to buy those to make the product in their business. The next type I want to mention are your expense accounts, and this will probably be the largest grouping that you'll have. You'll see they have several here, but you're going to end up adding much more than this. Looking through this list, you're going to see they've got advertising, automobile. You can kind of see everything here. You'll want to go down and add some. You'll also want to add sub-accounts, for example, automobile expense. This is where you're going to track all of your gas, the car washes, anything related to the automobile. If you did not add a sub-account for gas, but yet you wanted to run a report at some point to see how much you spent this year in gas, you couldn't do it because you don't have an account set up for that. I'm going to go ahead and set one up for gas. I'm going to right-click and choose New. This will be an expense account. I'm going to give this one a name. I'm just going to call this one Gas. And it's going to be a sub-account of automobile expense. I'll go ahead and save and close so that you can see it. And you'll see it'll look indented underneath automobile expense like it does right there. And of course, I'll go back and give it a general ledger number. I'll go ahead and right-click and choose Edit. I'll add my number. And I'll save and close. And you can see it right there. Let me add one more. I'll add repairs. I'm going to right-click and choose New again. It's going to be an expense. I'll add my general ledger number, and I'm going to call this one Repairs. This will be a sub-account again of my automobile expense account. I'll go ahead and save and close that, and now you'll see that you have two sub-accounts for your automobile expense. Just a reminder again, when you're using sub-accounts, always, always, always pick one of the sub-accounts when you're entering transactions, because if you choose the main account and run reports, it will say Other. Some other sub-accounts you would want to add, for example, under insurance expense. You may have different types of insurance. Maybe you have workers' comp, automobile insurance. You could add those there. Automobile insurance could go under insurance or auto. It's really up to you where you'd like to see it. You'll probably want to add some under professional fees. Typically, you're going to see professional fees or things like continuing education. Maybe you have an attorney, an accountant. Those are the types of things that would go under that account. Let's say you have an account you don't want. We'll say rent expense. All you want to do is right-click and choose Delete. If you get a message that says, "Are you sure you want to delete this account?" That's how you know you've never used it and it's okay to delete it. It will not let you delete it if you've ever used it. Some other sub-accounts you'll want to add under utilities down here. You're going to want to add your water and your sewer, and if you have electric, you'll want to add those under utilities there. Take a little bit of time setting up your chart of accounts because you want to make sure you gather most of the accounts you think you're going to need. It's okay if you find one 6 months later you need to add. You can always edit this. But my point with these 3 videos about the chart of accounts is that you want to make sure they're all set up as the correct type. Now that you know how to set up your chart of accounts, let's go ahead and head over to the next video, which will be really quick. I just want to show you some of the sample files that QuickBooks has that you can use when you're not sure exactly how to do something or how to set something up. And we're actually going to use one of those for the rest of the videos in this series.
If you're not a subscriber, click down below to subscribe so you get notified about similar videos we upload. To see the full course that this video came from, click over there. And click over there to see more videos from Simon Says It.